Hey, world, being able to come back live with a video with just a question. I'm going to reiterate the question numerous times throughout the live, but I'm going to go ahead and ask the question right now. You know, why is it that public education, there are certain things that are not taught, banking system, taxes, and Wall Street? That's a good question. You read the title, family, look at that question, okay? And if you look at the question, it's going to really make sense. Fonzo, what it do? All right. So I'm gonna wait a couple of minutes here before I really kind of get into it, because this live is going to be educational, and I tell you right now, it's crazy because me being a student I was in school, uh, I'm looking at the information I'm gonna talk about, and I promise you that I will replace this information that I'm going to be talking about every day of the week with calculus, geometry, trigonometry, physics. I will replace those courses that I took in school with what I'm going to talk about today. And like I say, what the title says, why doesn't public education teaches us about the banking system, taxes, financial investing, Wall Street? And growing up, you have that dichotomy of public school versus private school, right? And so, you have to really ask yourself the question: how is it that individuals are able to have the children go to private schools generationally? Because it's not free, right? So there has to be different information that's being taught in the private schools or in certain schools than in public schools. I've been in public education a while, and I'm saying this: learning about trigonometry and calculus. There were 4 disciplines in math that I use every day in trying to gain wealth, and that's adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Once you know how to use those 4 disciplines and know that little decimal can go right and go left based on the zeros, that's pretty much all you need in math. All right. So it's like, if you think back on all the people that they say became successful, wealth-wise, that dropped out of high school, that never went to college, you know, we kind of turn a blind eye to that notion because you've been so programmed and so brainwashed to think that, your narrow thinking is based on employeeship. And employeeship means that I need to go to school to get a good job. I need to increase my education so I can get paid more. Opposed to, what is it that I can do to build wealth with my energy other than just working with somebody. Now, that type of entrepreneurship mindset, it is not just in you right off the bat. That's something that has to be either you exposed to from prior knowledge, from generational family members that are exposing you to it, or you learning it in school. And so when you look at the title, you kind of ask yourself, okay, uh, you are taught about interests, but are you taught about how interest affects you when you get a credit card, when you get approved for a loan and a home, when you get approved for a car? A lot of people don't even know what that is, and don't even know the how dramatic or how detrimental that can be if you don't understand interests, and how just those numbers are basically telling you how much you have to pay per dollar. You did? And so if somebody's charging you 15%, then you know that's 15 cents on the dollar. Right? And so it's easy to calculate how much you owe in interest and how much how much you're actually paying in principal. But see, that type of information, you need to know that information like you know your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. But once again, why doesn't public education teach us about the banking system, about taxes, and about financial investing in Wall Street. Why? Because the majority of people that go to public schools normally become employees. And normally those that are thinking outside the box or do have a particular mindset where they're questioning a lot of the things that are being taught to them, those people are actually called what they call disruptions in class. And so when I'm talking about these three disciplines, banking system, taxes, and Wall Street, I promise you, understanding this, who's going to disrupt class when it's teaching you how to be wealthy, when it's teaching you how to protect yourself against paying exorbitant amounts in taxes, when it's teaching you how to make money and invest money to make more money. Who's going to disrupt that class? All right. So ask yourself, if you in high school or if you graduate from high school, ask yourself, will you ever talk about the Federal Reserve System and how the Federal Reserve System runs our monetary system, okay? Prints the money in our monetary system, okay? And decides the interest rates while not being a part of the government. They're a separate entity. They don't follow the rules of the government. They can take suggestions, and the only thing that the Federal Reserve, its connection to the government is that the president can choose the chairman of the Federal Reserve, with, of course, recommendations from Congress and the judicial branch. But think about it. If you go do your research, and if this from a historical standpoint, if you were taught this, then you know that the chairman of the Federal Reserve, he has total autonomy to do what he want to do. Now, he can take suggestions, but the Federal Reserve chairman decides the fate of the monetary system in America, and it's not a part of the U.S. Treasury. Actually, the U.S. Treasury gets money from the Federal Reserve. Did you get taught that? All right. And how actually in the banking system, banks can only, well, actually they can charge you, money, interest for loans, for credit cards, right? But then only give you a small amount of money for depository accounts. Now, if you know this coming out of high school, then you're gonna make different decisions when it comes to like getting a job and where you're gonna put your money and how you're gonna spend your money. You're not just gonna throw your money in the bank because your family members are at this particular bank. You're gonna look at the interest rates that these particular banks are paying you for your depository account. So you have some financial knowledge right off the bat. You did? Okay. And then of course taxes. You guys get jobs at 16, 17, 18. This is an opportunity, if they taught it in school, for you to learn about the tax forms. Because right now, if you're in high school, or if you graduate from high school, and when you graduate from high school, you didn't know what these particular forms were: a W-2, a 1040, a I-9, a W-4, or what a Schedule A statement is. I didn't. Okay? Because I don't remember having a curriculum of taxes taught to me where when I graduated from high school, or when I got a job, because I got a job when I was 16 at Sonic. I didn't know why they were taking money out of my account. And since my parents didn't explain it to me, how am I going to know? So think about it. Generational financial literacy is very, very important into sustaining that type of generational wealth. It doesn't happen if you don't have the generational knowledge. All right? And so at 16, 17 years old, you should automatically right now know when you look at your check, you see FICA, how much they pay, how much you paying in Social Security and Medicare. Just like what happened in Alamo, okay, or World War II, or Pearl Harbor. All these historical events that are drilled into your head, the Texas Revolution, United States Revolution, all those facts. Just imagine if you knew graduating high school, the W-2, the 1040, I-9, the W-4, Schedule A, all those tax forms and what they meant, and how to calculate the FICA taxes. your Social Security, and your Medicare. Imagine knowing all of that in high school or graduating from high school. And of course, the banking system, knowing how the Federal Reserve runs the monetary system. And then that way you'll be able to make better decisions on where would I want to do my savings instead of just putting your money in just any bank account and not knowing what that bank is giving you for depository accounts. See, this is real knowledge. This is real food for thought. You did? And the last thing, family, is financial investing. I don't remember a course in high school where it taught me about Wall Street, the origin of Wall Street, about the Dow Jones, what the Dow Jones is, S&P 500. What is the S&P 500? What is the NASDAQ? What is the Russell 2000? I didn't know any of that. Imagine coming out of high school or in high school, you know what those four different markets represented and how you could benefit from it. Because getting a job, having your parents, you're going home. Of course, if you know about it, then your kids going to know about it. And of course, it comes generational knowledge. So imagine if your parents told you about what the benefits of Wall Street was and the Dow Jones and S&P 500 and what a bull market is and what a bear market is and how the market goes up and it comes down. And you have a great opportunity to gain wealth. See how there's no discrepancy in wealth and how the inequality of wealth is not as bad as it is today, because more people will know how to take advantage of the opportunities out there. So if you're not taught about Wall Street, about Dow Jones and S&P 500, if you're not taught about the different types of equities that you can invest in, because remember, all that particular means is having the knowledge. So when you get a job, because remember you want to work, because in this particular capitalistic society, in order to gain wealth, you have to have money. You can't get wealth without money. And so knowing that, you're not going to be just going out there and just want to be playing basketball and football. Your goal is not going to be, hey, I want to be a professional athlete. No, you're going to say, you know what? With this knowledge I have, I'm going to get a job because this job can make me wealthy. Now, if I want to play basketball or want to be a professional athlete or entertainer, okay, yes. But that's not going to be predicated on you wanting to be that for riches. Because this information that you've been taught in school about financial investing, about taxes and the tax code, about the banking system and the origin of the banking system. This is information that you don't have to put your, all your marbles in one bag. You can have, diversity. You can have options. You can say, I want to work at 16 to 18 and invest all my money in these particular companies because I've been taught about financial statements, balance sheets, profit and loss statements. So when I want to invest in a company, I can look at that company's financial statements and decide whether or not if I want to invest in it, because this is tangible information. You know about the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission, that regulates all of the companies in America. So you'll know if you want to get real information, you have somewhere to get it. Knowledge is power. You did? And so it's just something I was thinking about, family, because I just think that graduating from high school, I'm just kind of wondering, man, what about, because I was an A student, I graduated from Rice University, the academic school, but they taught me about supply and demand. I was an economics major. So I learned about accounting, I learned about balance sheets. I learned about, a lot of stuff, economically, about the macro and the micro economy, how that works. But I never actually learned about this information, about the history of the banking system, about the history of the Federal Reserve, and how at one point we were on a gold standard, how money actually had value because it was based on gold, something tangible, not just the Federal Reserve printing money. I knew, I would know about the federal fund rate, where the Federal Reserve pretty much says to all the banks in the nation, this is the rate that you can borrow money against. Okay? I would know about what the repo situation is that's going on right now, family. Okay. Now, if I didn't do my research, I would think that repo means repossessing somebody's car or repossessing somebody's possessions. But when it comes to the banking system, repo means that these banks right now are not keeping the amount of money necessary in their banks to accommodate their customers. See, that's that kind of shady stuff that you would think everybody should know. Think about it. Why would you be having your money in a bank and this bank is not having the necessary reserves, cash reserves in the bank to accommodate all its customers? So what does the Federal Reserve have to do? They have to come in and give these guys money. Well, where are they getting the money from? They printing it. Remember, we're not on a gold standard. So the Federal Reserve come in and just print money, and it's $75 billion of monies that goes to these banks because they did not keep all the money, cash reserves in the bank they were supposed to. Now imagine if you had this knowledge in high school and you had this knowledge now. You make different decisions, family. You did? So I know that was a plethora of information I just put out there, but that repo information I just dropped is stuff that's going on right now. And just imagine right now, family, if you had a bank and your bank didn't have the necessary. Think about this. You can't have a bank account and not have the necessary monies in there to cover your bills. You're going to get some insufficient funds charges. You're going to have a consequence. But the banks cannot have the necessary funds in their accounts, and the Federal Reserve will just come in and just give them money. But that can happen to us. You did? So, family, I hope you're paying attention. I just dropped a lot of food for thought today from a financial standpoint. Imagine if we learned this in school. Like I said, the title was, why didn't in public school they teach us about the banking system, taxes, and financial investing? Because if they did coming out of high school, I promise you wouldn't be having to depend on having to go to the pros to be rich. You'll be rich before you're 25. Okay? So, family, in the meantime, between time, may the Most High Inside to bring you joy. And being Willie's going to be out at 5,000. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And let everybody know what's going on in this garden. And I'm out at 5,000.